Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of Have History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time Jeb Stuart and George Armstrong Custer clashed east of the main battlefield at Gettysburg. Now, George Pickett and other division commanders attacked the Union center in what became known as Pickett's Charge. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, join the Patreon page, and purchase something from one of my online stores. Every little bit helps. Thank you. It was around 1 p.m. on July 3rd, and 150 rebel artillery pieces erupted in a massive bombardment of the Union battle line on Cemetery Ridge. Quickly, Union gunners on the ridge began to respond. About 115 Union artillery pieces threw projectiles at the Confederates in a duel of destruction. Confederate General Robert E. Lee hoped to soften up the Union defenses before he sent in parts of 3 divisions against the troops of the 2nd Corps commander, Winfield Scott Hancock. For around an hour the cannons roared, sending shot and shell into each other. The chief of the Army of the Potomac's artillery, Brigadier General Henry Hunt, ordered his guns to stop firing. He anticipated an infantry assault and thought the guns would better serve the army if they waited to blow holes in the advancing lines of infantry. Many of the rebel shells either flew over the Federals' heads or exploded once they were buried in the earth and posed no threat. Many of the Confederate guns were commanded by Colonel Edward Porter Alexander, and it was his responsibility to let Corps Commander James Longstreet know when the artillery had the desired effect on the enemy. The slacken of Federal artillery fire coming from Cemetery Ridge made Alexander think that his guns had disabled the Union artillery pieces, or at the very least forced the enemy cannons to withdraw. After about an hour of dueling back and forth, many of the rebel artillery crews stopped working their pieces in anticipation of the infantry assault that was to follow. Alexander sent a message to George Pickett, one of the division commanders in the ordered assault, that read, "If you are to advance at all, you must come at once, or we will not be able to support you as we ought." Pickett took this message to his Corps Commander James Longstreet. For seconds that probably felt like minutes, Longstreet read the message and didn't answer. Pickett asked, "General, shall I advance?" Longstreet couldn't speak. He nodded and turned his head so as to avoid Pickett's eyes. Pickett stiffly straightened and saluted. "I am going to move forward, sir." A few minutes later, another note came from Alexander. "For God's sake, come quick, or we cannot support you. Ammunition nearly out." Pickett rode up to his division, sat straight up in his saddle, took off his hat and yelled to his men, "Up, men, to your posts. Don't forget that you are from old Virginia." Then he yelled out the preparatory command, "Forward." The orders echoed throughout the ranks of his 3 brigades. Part of 3 divisions readied their arms for the attack. On the left, 2 divisions from A.P. Hill's corps assembled, 4 brigades from Henry Heath's division under the temporary command of J. Johnston Pettigrew. Pettigrew took command of the division, following Heath's wounding on July 1st. Behind Pettigrew was another line of infantry. An unassigned major general named Isaac Trimble took command of the second line, made up of 2 brigades from William Dorsey Pender's division. Pender had been seriously wounded the previous day. On the right was Pickett's division with 3 brigades. Technically, there were 5 brigades in the division, but 2 were left behind in Virginia, while the rest took part in the invasion of Pennsylvania. Opposing them across the open fields were troops under the 2nd Corps commander Winfield Scott Hancock. Hancock was known as a tough fighter, and his troops were hardened veterans of the Army of the Potomac. Also on Cemetery Ridge, on the left of Hancock's line, was a brigade of men from Vermont from the 1st Corps. The 3 Confederate divisions stepped off around 3 p.m. On the right, Pickett's men moved out on time, and on the left, Burkett Fry and James Marshall's brigade started out at the appropriate moment. But Joseph Davis and John Brockenbrough's brigades lagged behind. Trimble's 2 brigades followed close behind the front line. As the movement began, Union regiments began to move into the weak spots in the line, and they braced for the attack. Pettigrew and Trimble drew closer to the enemy line when the 8th Ohio and 126th New York slipped onto the Confederate left flank, pouring deadly musketry into the unsuspecting rebels. Brockenbrough's brigade wasn't the most reputable of Lee's troops, and they broke first, leaving Davis's flank exposed. Getting near the Cadore farm, Pickett saw he needed to keep in contact with Pettigrew's right flank and started shifting his brigades in that direction. But as he did that, the 16th and 13th Vermont approached their right flank. James Kemper peeled off 2 regiments, the 11th and 24th Virginia, to deal with them and kept moving. The fence that bordered the Emmitsburg road slowed down the advancing troops. They climbed over one fence, only to be exposed to enemy fire when they climbed to the top of the second one. Pettigrew's brigades engaged with Federals at the angle of a stone wall. Richard Garnett and James Kemper's brigades made contact with the Federals as well, with Lewis Armistead's brigade moving left to give support to the mass of men congregating at the stone wall. Behind Armistead was Trimble's 2 brigades. The North Carolinians under Trimble could see the futility in continuing the attack, but they moved to attack the Federals all the same. Armistead, in an attempt to bust through the Union defenses, led his men in a charge that sent a section of the 71st Pennsylvania into a retreat. Armistead would be mortally wounded in the breakthrough. The 72nd Pennsylvania didn't allow the line to be breached for long, and charged to push back the rebels. By this point, the attack ground to a complete halt. Confederates who couldn't make their way back to Seminary Ridge surrendered. Those that could retreat did it the best way they could. However, that wasn't the end of the fighting in that sector. David Lang and Cadmus Wilcox of Richard Anderson's division of A.P. Hill's Corps moved out to support Pickett and Pettigrew and Trimble, after the majority of the fighting had concluded and most of the attackers were streaming to the rear. Nevertheless, the 2 brigades were flanked by the men from Vermont. 2 of the regiments under Lang lost their regimental flags in the quick fight. Wilcox tried to get the artillery close to the Emmitsburg road to fire on the enemy, but they were out of ammunition. The 2 brigades limped back to Seminary Ridge after a costly and fruitless effort. Robert E. Lee's massive assault on the Union line ended in a complete failure, causing casualties that the rebel commander couldn't afford to lose, especially with nothing gained out of the planned attack. The divisions of Pettigrew, Pickett, and Trimble were devastated. Soon after the remnants of those units came streaming back into Confederate lines, Longstreet came to Pickett, and Pickett said, "General, I am ruined. My division is gone. It is destroyed." Longstreet attempted to console him and tell him that everything would be right again. Next, Lee approached Pickett. The distraught Pickett said, "General Lee, I have no division now. Armistead is down, Garnett is down, and Kemper is mortally wounded." Lee responded, "Come, General Pickett. This has been my fight, and upon my shoulders rests the blame."